Learn to be super successful. Subscribe to my channel, Meathead. And then you Google and you go back to the annual reports if it was a public company to see what it said about you. Oh, I see, And if you play tennis, I see you play tennis for Harvard. If you row, I see you pulled the oars at Princeton. But don't say that if you didn't. If he wants to meet you don't want to meet him at his. If he says, "Can you meet me at my office?" In other words, if he's at the last 2 or 3 months of his work at British Petroleum, he says, "Well, come by the office. We can have lunch here." That's great. That means whatever you send him, he likes. Because you're not worried about you embarrassing him. Because he's almost positive you're not going to show up with earrings and shit. Okay? And you show up and you do your homework and you see in his office and you sit there and you see that, he plays golf, he does this, he does that. So if he's trying to make this a riskless meeting, he'll meet you at a neutral place. But we have kids meet him at Starbucks. And that seems to be, I don't like that, but it seems to be okay. I think it's insulting myself. But most of the people that you're going to be trying to recruit are a little younger than I am. Although you have somebody that's my age. Yes, sir, in the back.
If you do a Google search, LinkedIn search, but you cannot find a chairman coming from healthcare background, transactional background, would you consider getting a CEO, someone with 30 plus years coming from healthcare background and transactional background to become your chairman?
Well, I'll tell you, if every one of you went into home health, there are more than enough chairmen times 10 times this room. There's more than enough, believe me. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them.
You're talking about regional, like Toronto only. Chairman only.
No. Well, I mean, you want a guy geographically desirable, but sometimes you can't. Okay? Home health is everywhere. Assisted living is everywhere. And we've got guys that are doing assisted living in Columbus, Ohio. They're chairmen from Connecticut. And the one thing the corona has made it easier is people are used to meeting on Zoom. But your original meeting with them should not be on Zoom, in my opinion. You get your fucking skinny ass over to Greenwich, Connecticut. Or I used to, because when I had no money and I was building a team, I don't mean to delve into your personal life, sir, but I mean, what are your travel plans the next 6 weeks? Where are you going to be? And I can be there. Oh, well, I'm going to be, funny you should mention that, I'm going to be in Cleveland, Ohio next month. Columbus and Cleveland are 140 miles apart. It's easier to get to Cleveland from Columbus than to Greenwich, Connecticut. You want to make sure you send the message that you want to meet him. Now, we want to meet him yesterday because you're running out of money. You got no fucking money. Okay. Now, they'll know that more than you know, than you think they'll know. All these guys didn't start as chairman. All these guys, one of the hardest things for me to get across politically is my constituents or potential constituents. I was poor once. It's hard to believe, but I was. But the message that when I spoke, for those of you that perhaps watched my Guthrie Villages, I remember what it feels like to be hungry. And that resonated with everybody in the room. Now, a long, long time ago, but I remember. You remember more when you're young and you miss a meal. But I remember. And my mom, and I've told you this, used to tell me, the people are starving in China. That's what everybody used to say back in the 50s. Now they wish they had starved. But, people are starving in China. So you want to be able to touch base like a human being on some level with them. some level. And it's harder to touch base and relate to them if she's a gal and you're a guy, or vice versa. That's harder. Because the last thing you want to leave, let's say you got an attractive woman, CEO, is that she thinks you're hitting on her. That's the last that's the last message. I mean, you go out of your way. And and I don't need to tell you, you're not sleeping with any of these people of either sex. And we got guys, can't help themselves exactly. You took the words right out of my goddamn mouth. Goddamn. I didn't used to say that 10 years ago, but now I say it. Yeah. I got an email 3 or 4 years ago from one of the future Hall of Famers. Is it okay for me to sleep with my investment banker? Fuck. And I said, send me your picture. Now I didn't even want to say, because most investment bankers are guys, and this is a guy. It didn't even dawn on me that it could be a guy. But he sent me a picture of a very attractive woman, late 20s, early 30s. I said, no, it's not all right. And then he asked me, why'd you want to see her picture? And I said, forget about it. Forget about it. And so you met, you're meeting with a potential CEO. And again, you're either shotgunning or rifling, okay? And I use the rifle. But if you've already talked to 1 or 2 people about the position as CEO, you tell them. Because the C-suite's a small world. And the C-suite in mid-America for assisted living is a small world. And these guys and gals know each other. And they may be playing tennis or at the club or whatever the fuck it is. And say, I got approached by such and such for a startup. And he said, so did I. So, I mean, you want to share the information. You want to tell them the truth. When in doubt, tell the truth. I mean, this is not a con. This is not, this is not something that you're trying to slip over their eyes. But the hardest thing, we're going to get to that, I'm going to get the whole section of how you convince them there's no money needed. Because, I want some of your time, your experience, no money. But they're glad that they don't have to put any money. But down the road they're going to say, who's the fuck's putting up the money? Because everybody that you're going to be approaching knows there's no such a thing as a free lunch. And that's what it sounds like when you're selling it initially, especially when you're fumbling and you're not smooth with the scripts yet. But I tell the kids they should practice the scripts at least a couple hundred times with nobody. I used to, my Great Dane up there, Driller, if I could keep him in that seated position like in that picture for 10 or 12 minutes, I had his attention. But as soon as he went like this, and God forbid, he puts his head on, I lost his attention, we start all over again. And then I used to practice on the kids when they were little. And the kids used to think it was like detention. Yeah, okay, who lost? Kelly, the youngest. Why, just because I'm a girl? No, honey, it's just your turn. Why? It was my turn yesterday. And she kept track. The boys don't do it as much as I do. And then you got to go through that shit. But you got to practice, guys. I'm telling you. The smoother you are, the more effective you'll be. And people connote smoothness if you do it not in a cheesy way, with sincerity. And you want them to believe that you're sincere about this. There's no bullshit. Okay? Now, polished salesmen can act sincere even when I can act sincere whether I'm sincere or not, because I've been doing this a long time. But in today's world, they consider that fake. And today, the kids today say, fake it till you make it. Isn't that what your program is based on, Mr. Peña? No. But perception is reality is what the program is based on. But the kids think that's fake it until you make it. And fake is a bad word. There's nothing sincere about fucking, and when I talk at universities, that comes up once in a while. But I've answered it so many times now that, but you will have not answered it. But you're not going to be talking to the young millennials to be your CEO. So they think differently. They think differently. You might get an industry expert that's only 40 years old. You know, he's had a great career, and so he's a millennial. But the good news is you're going to be talking to mature senior people. And the good news, the double good news is that's going to help you become more mature. It's going to help you look at the situations differently. Okay, so now you set up a meeting. And remember, I told you when they ask you what kind of time commitment, I said in the beginning, sir, ma'am, very little, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a month. As we get involved in picking other board members and potential transactions, maybe 10, 12 hours a month. And once we start looking at deals, maybe, 15 hours a month. And if you have the time to join me on some of the due diligence trips, so you got to put that out front. Now, of a board of 6 or 8, you're going to have 1 or 2 workhorses that like the hunt, like a hunting dog. They want to go out there, kick the tires, and see the people. You'll have 2 or 3 couch potatoes that don't want to do anything, walking to the bar is an effort. Their exercise is tipping their elbow to have a drink. Now, speaking of that, there are parts of the world I don't do business with a man I haven't had a drink with. Religious persuasion aside, in other words, certain religions don't drink, okay? And, or they drink, not alcohol. And they're not being racist. That's just the way it is. You go to Texas, Alabama, to name a couple, everybody drinks. So just be prepared how to answer that. I'm not telling you to drink, but don't expect them not to drink just because you don't drink. That's more importantly. And that's still around. In South Africa, I didn't know an Afrikaner that didn't drink. I don't think they exist. They might exist, but I never met one. And that's just part of the world. And a lot of the kids, but you're not dealing with the kids again. The kids don't understand that. Or a lot of kids don't understand that. Of course, they'll line up a line of Coke. Now, to me, I don't understand, I've had kids, go in the bathroom, they come back and they got powder on their fucking lip. And anyway, I don't understand that. I'm a Neanderthal. I don't understand. You can go do a line of Coke, but I don't drink, and so the kids, anyway. But I've never been with an old person that did a line of Coke, came back with a powder on his lip. So that hasn't happened. So the people that you're going to be, and God forbid you don't do it. I mean, because you're nervous. I've had kids. The meeting fell apart when I went and did a line. Fuck. The meeting fell apart when I did a line. See, that's beyond. I don't get that. I don't get that. Some of the older guys in the room don't get it either. Even the young guys don't get it. But never underestimate how wrong you can be. Never underestimate how wrong you can be. And I've been, I'm a pretty good judge now. I'm doing it all these years, but I mean, every once in a while, I get blown out of the water because of something that I didn't think was going to happen. It did happen. And these guys that you're interviewing aren't showing up with their wives, if they're showing up with their wives or their girlfriends, God forbid, they're not serious. They're not serious. And, make the meeting as short as possible. And some of the guys will bring their unmarried daughters. And their unmarried daughters are unmarried for a reason, normally. My mother gave me some great advice when I was a teenager. Take a look at her mother, and that's what she's going to look like in 25 years. And if her mother looks like a Volkswagen, she's going to look like a Volkswagen. And it was probably the best advice my mother ever gave me. I mean, Jesus Christ. And but when I came back from the military, I hadn't seen my mom in 4 years. And I drove up to her house, and she was just getting back from work. And she gets out of the car, and the first words out of my mouth, after not seeing my mother for 50 months. God, Mom, you put on weight. I'd like to have that back. I'd like to have that back. And she had just turned 50. She says, I hope I'm alive when you're 50. When you walk by a piece of cake and it jumps on your hips. Well, she was alive when I turned 50. And and when I walk by a pizza, it jumps on my hips. And she said on her deathbed, my biggest regret is I'm leaving you my fat genes. Just before she expired. And she never weighed more than 120 in her life. But she always thought she should weigh 110. So just before she cashed out, I regret leaving you with my fat genes. And most Latins have too many fat genes. And they eat the carbohydrates to make sure they don't lose their fat genes. Okay, back to, so you're interviewing. And the meetings, even if it's a lunch, at his club are short. This is not something to spend early part of the afternoon doing. You want them to think that you're more businesslike than you are. More businesslike than you are. You also, when you send the executive summary to the chairman, the first changes, updates, things that you think that we should be saying that maybe perhaps we're not. And when you're with the CEO, same thing. Every board member that you're recruiting, same thing. But then it gets approved by the chairman. So the CFO then the chairman will say, well, I don't particularly like that, Dan, and he'll tell you why. And you're deferring to the chairman. Because he's the one that's going to save your ass. If he's going to save your ass. He's the only thing between you and the door. Just remember that. Just remember that. We had a deal come up here not too long ago where I was the chairman. I stepped in and I didn't really save the guy. I just told the other board members the topic is closed. We're taking it off the agenda. We're not voting on that right now. And when you have a powerful chairman, everybody says, fine. Okay, so now you've done this twice. Now you're still not an expert doing it twice. You've gone through a chairman and you've gone through a CEO. The next most important person, and the person that's really, you will probably bond with looking at deals and due diligence the most is the CFO. Big Four experience. I like them, CFOs coming up the audit line. Auditors. Not marketing, not tax, and they got all kinds of other verticals now. I like them coming up the audit line. Because when you're an auditor, you know how to peel back the onion and you know where the bones are buried and how to dig up shit. And that's what you want. That's what you want. And always remember, I've never known a CFO that didn't want to be CEO. So he's kind of if something goes sideways with your CEO, he's your backup. Same thing. The big auditing firms normally let you have the last year to look for a new job. So you want them at least within 3 or 4 or 5 months of retiring, stepping down. Yeah, well, I'm getting to that. Industry experience, like one of my kids, I have nothing to do with this deal, was the managing partner for the healthcare practice for PwC for the southeastern United States. Perfect. How this dipshit kid of mine got him, I have no idea. But he did. And so that's not important how he did, but he did. And he's perfect. And he comes from the Southeast. He went to the University of Georgia. I mean, he knows everybody. There's anybody in healthcare in that part of the world. And he was on the healthcare board for PwC worldwide. So he was perfect for the kid. Okay. Now, hopefully, fingers crossed, the kid doesn't fuck up the relationship. So that's perfect. Or, for example, a former managing partner, but currently a professor at University of Georgia in healthcare accounting, cost accounting, whatever. And again, another guy got the retiring head of the medical school, again at University of Georgia, who retired a doctor to be one of his industry experts. So, and I'm not saying, but the kids that have alumni associations have an edge. That's if you've been close to your alumni. If you graduated 19 years ago and you never talked to anybody, and you don't know anybody, and you had a reputation, you got thrown out, it doesn't do you much good, the fact that you're a fucking alumni. Because they'll pull up your files, like they did me. Well, it appears, Mr. Peña, you flunked out of this institution of higher learning at least once, and you flunked out of other institutions of higher learning at least twice more. I said, yes, you're forgetting that. There's a fourth one there. You forget that one. Okay. But whether you went to university or you flunked out of university, it doesn't make any difference. Okay. We've got double murderers rolling up in Florida, assisted living. Convicted double murderers. Did their time. But you can't Google his fucking name in Southern Florida without that coming up. You can't. And we've got a couple of resumes in here that I'm sure you guys aren't too proud of, but not double murders we don't have. And so now you're doing the same thing with the CFOs. You're asking the CEO and the chairman. Now, if the CEO and the chairman say, well, we can probably help with the board, then you tap them for that, recommendations. But you don't want it to be their board. Because if the chairman picks the CEO and the CFO and industry expert, that's your second banana peel out the door. Second banana peel out the door. Some would say, well, the Georgia state, I keep saying Georgia because Georgia is a good source for people for boards. The Georgia State Health Corporation is making 20% of their staff redundant because they're cutting back. It's a perfect place. They're paying for early retirements. It's a perfect place to go find people to assist you in building your dream team. Now, you may be asked, because you're going to, I'm building my dream team. And you have to say it with sincerity. I was building these dream teams way before O.J. Simpson got off for murder from his dream team. Okay? Because these are the guys, the team that you're assembling, they're going to help you fulfill your dreams. And they'll understand that. One of the best compliments you can be given by these guys or gals is you remind me of me when I was young, when they had energy. And the thing that you see the most differentiation between you and the board is energy. Hopefully that you've got more than they do. It's energy. And it's all right to be excited. You heard Peter say yesterday, I had enthusiasm. And it was tough for him to build enthusiasm because he's not an enthusiastic guy. And he went to speech classes and he went to this and that. He went to improv. Because some of you are just, not everybody's got a lot of energy. That's just the way it is. And you can do push-up and, fucking sit-ups and lift weights and do wind sprints, and that's not going to even fucking just tire you out. So, now you want to be able to sit still and not be like a kid that's on a sugar high. But, you want to show energy. And the same energy with bankers, the same energy with lawyers, the same energy with accounting firms. You want to show energy. Now, when I was growing up, the kids were seen and not heard. I think that's the way you say it. Seen and not heard. I had to have permission to open my fucking mouth at dinner. I.e., my kids have to have an agenda to call me. But I just didn't flap my fucking mouth, just to hear myself talk. But the opposite of that, and i.e., so you weren't allowed to speak at the table, so now you're not too forthcoming. So, okay, any questions on anything up to now? Okay, YouTube, bye-bye. We don't want to give you too many secrets.